Good morning, intrepid readers. How is your Wednesday morning going? This is Kelley's Konundrum for Sunday's blog, but right now it's Wednesday, so here I am. First of all, I wanted to just start out by telling you something super exciting that's happened to me, which you might already know. My book, Death by Diploma, last week reached #1 on the Kindle on Amazon in Cozy Mystery category. Went up to number 66 on all of Amazon. So that means it hit the top 100 for books and #1 in my category. So I'm a bestseller. I'm considered a Kindle bestseller. Wow. Isn't that a wow? I think that's such a wow. I am auditioning people right now for the audiobook on Audible. So if you want to audition on Audible, go ahead and get on there and look up Death by Diploma and submit an audition tape. I'm currently stalking a local singer-songwriter to see if she's interested in doing it. I'm interested in having her audition. But anyway, so super exciting. All right, so let's talk about last week's blog, which is called The Mystery of Yes But, a.k.a. People's rights they actually have versus the rights that they really have. Okay? Yes, but. Mystery of yes, but. So, I'm watching TV last week, and there's a talk show on, and they're talking about this Mexican restaurant in some town. This Mexican restaurant, they present the patrons with cards upon entry, and the cards list ways that people are expected to behave when they enter this restaurant. And it's mostly about kids, right? If your kid is screaming, running around and screaming and throwing things and out of their seats and all sorts of tomfoolery like that, the restaurant wants you to know when you come in, that they have the right to ask you to leave. And so this is the topic on the talk show, and I'm kind of still in shock that this is a subject of controversy. But it is. It was a talk show discussion. And I listened to it. I listened to them discuss on this talk show. Until one of the hosts said this thing that just sets my teeth on edge every time anybody says this. She said, "Nobody has the right to tell me how to raise my kids." Ugh. I hate that phrase. Hate it. And not because you don't have the right to raise your kids. Not because I don't have the right to tell you how to raise your kids. That's absolutely true. All right? But in my experience, I have found that people who use this phrase tend to not really understand the concept of where their rights end and other people's rights begin. That's the rub, right? No, of course, I have no right to tell you how to raise your children. But in my world, the restaurant owners have a complete right to whatever ambiance they set for their restaurant. If it's no screaming kids, no people running around like crazy people, and maybe some quiet, and that's fine. They have the right to do that. All right? I think rights are that's the subject I want to talk about. It's very important. Our rights are very important. But there's this bleed over. People tend to miss the bleed over, right? When I think you absolutely have the right to raise your children however you see fit, until what you do starts bleeding into what I do and what everyone else is trying to do on this fantastic little pebble we call Earth. So, anyway, I'm not a parent who's saying, "Oh, look at me, I'm the best parent, and my kid never throws temper tantrums in restaurants." That's not true at all. My youngest son threw a temper tantrum in a Barnes & Noble one afternoon that could possibly go down in history as the quintessential temper tantrum, with feet slamming, laying on the ground, wailing kind of temper tantrum. It was horrifying. And it was right next to the Starbucks that they put in the Barnes & Noble, where there's people trying to eat and drink coffee and read books quietly. All right? The difference, I guess, is that I picked him up and took him out of the store. I picked him up and took him out of the store so he wasn't disturbing the patrons anymore, and he got a consequence for the behavior, which in this case was no cookie and milk after story time, Barnes & Noble story time. That's where we were. And usually there's a cookie and milk in the equation after story time. Not that day. Okay? And that was for him at 4 or 3 or 4. That was enough of a consequence that we've not had a public temper tantrum of any degree since then. And, you know, we have, so I'm not saying anything about parenting, mine versus yours or anything like that. Nothing like that. I'm just saying that in the matter of rights, I think you've got to be paying attention to the bleed over. So back to the restaurant. Okay, yes, the restaurant has the total right to run their business however they see fit, including sending curtain climbers out if they can't do, you know, if they can't keep it down enough to maintain the ambiance of the restaurant. But wait! I can see the word bubble coming out of your head. Argumentative devil's advocate word bubble. What if I, as the restaurant owner, want to send away blacks or gays or Muslims or anything that I deem as a lifestyle I don't approve of? What if I want to send those away? Don't I have the right to do that? No. No, that's a different argument. Pop the word, but do you see me with the needle? I just popped the word bubble. No, that's not the same thing. There's a difference. The difference is between the reason for sending people away and the whole bleeding over into other people's rights issue. Okay, so this is how I feel. Oh, and I lost it. Okay, so the difference is between the way people taking a judgment out on somebody because of something like that. The way they look, the way they dress, the way they worship or choose not to worship, the color of their skin, their orientation. I don't have the right, the restaurant owner doesn't have the right to pass judgment on people like that. That's not the same thing. I don't think that's the same thing at all. All right? Now, as far as passing judgment, I'm a big one for passing judgment on people the way they act. If someone acts like an asshole, I have the right to say, you're being an asshole and I don't want you in my restaurant. That's a different thing between the way they act and what they are. Those are two different things in my world when it comes to rights. So in my world, you can, the restaurant owner should be allowed to put the cards out and not have any controversy. Any people who don't want to deal with the card, well, they have the right then to eat down the street, right? If you wanted a screaming kid and yelling and throwing crayons and all that stuff in your dinner surroundings, then maybe you'd take a picnic to the park or something like that. Just an idea, just a suggestion. That's in my world. So I think that the bleed over topic is a very interesting topic and something that I think I want to cover in a later blog because it gets really, I know it's tricky. The whole bleed over concept is really tricky. And that's something that I kind of want to talk about in a future blog. But for now, I would love to hear your views. I'd love to hear your views on the concept of yes, but, aka the actual rights people have versus the rights they mistakenly think they have. I'd love to hear what you think. Until next time, stay mystified.